Oh, yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like, I said it's up in those speakers, I think those little ones, I think. Yeah.
Right. And call meeting to order. Let's start with roll call.
Jason Wertz,
Here.
Tiffany Gant, here, Tony Bevel,
Here.
Dorian Bible,
Here.
Lisa Patterson, but she's absent tonight, Diane Foster, here, Mike Smith, here, thank you.
All right, so approval of minutes. Does anybody have any corrections? Mike?
Not, I would move that the minutes be accepted as. So.
And a second time?
Second.
Okay, there's no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so, little different organization tonight, citizen comments first. Do we have any that filled out? Yeah. Okay. Before we go into business, do you want to like reiterate the kind of the procedural things that you were talking about, just to
Yeah,
see if anybody has any questions?
thanks, Jason. Yeah, so we'll kind of all notice that there is kind of the change to the way that the agenda looks now. So as you can see, we just covered the citizen comments, and that will give us an opportunity to have our citizens be able to kind of speak up front at the start. So it gives us the ability to process their 4-minute speak time in regards to what may apply to things that we're talking about often in new business. And we're an old business. So we've shifted that to that spot. So it's a little more helpful for us. And then as just a reminder, when we do have that, we want to make sure that that time frame for those who want to speak is at that time. And we can hear from them at that moment and have their 4 minutes, and then we can then get into our business piece where we'll start discussing agenda items and move through that. If we need clarity from a complainant or anything, Jason, myself can reach out to them for clarity for the next future meeting. Moving past that, as Jason was referencing there, you'll see that we've kind of changed the layout. Thank you, Sabrina, to help us get this laid out, so that what we're going to have now is that we're going to have the new business section. So if we have new complaints, we'll address those. You'll see at this time that we don't have any in that section. But if we did, we would discuss new agenda items. We would give you a report from the police side regards to what we're seeing, an analysis of a certain case or complaint. And Jason's going to give us great perspective from the city perspective for engineering, et cetera, to be able to help the committee. If at that time you as a committee decide to say, yes, this is a founded complaint and there's additional work needed on it, and we're like, we still need to work through this, then for future meetings, that agenda item will switch to our pending section, which pending traffic safety requests. So then that'll be ones we've already heard the initial time, and now it's in the pending category. And we'll be able to then kind of update that in regards to each one of those. We'll go through and say, this is where we're at as a police department, as engineering, as a city, to help give you that kind of clear vision of where we're at, not miss any cases. It seems like sometimes in the past we've had cases where it's like, where are we at on that? Right? So this will hopefully give us the ability to keep a little better track on that. And then, as you know, Jason Waters does a great job of explaining how, and we've talked about this in past meetings, how certain cases may be founded, but in scope, they're larger than what we would be doing here at the Traffic Safety Committee. They're going to be a CIP project, ADA, safety-related issues, things like that, that are going to be costly beyond our scope. And so we would then want to, as we know, we talk about that in meetings. We're like, oh, that'll become a CIP project. But then I don't know about you, but myself, when I come to the next meeting, I'm kind of like, where is that agenda item and what we decide, kind of type thing. And so we have a section below our, when we get done with our pending analysis, we'll get down to the ones that are pending city projects like ADA and CIP projects. Those ones aren't one that we're weighing in on anymore. They're shuffled to the city, obviously, to try to work into, their financial plans, et cetera. But we're gonna keep a list of it because it came to this committee first. And we're gonna be able to kind of say that, yes, that was something that we said does need to be addressed. And we heard say from Jason, that needs to be a CIP project. It's not gonna be housed here for us to necessarily fix in the moment right now. But we'll see that list and we'll be able to, as a committee, kind of shuffle that grouping around to show kind of in our opinion or your opinion as a committee, what you think is the top priority, second, third, fourth, and put that on that list. So that we're a year down the road and we're looking at it and we see that list, that part will grow. And we can look at that and say, where is that project at right now? City of Sherwood that we initially received the complaint on in 2021, where are we at? And we can look back. So it kind of produces that ability for us not to forget about those things that we say do need being addressed, but just not here.
Thanks. Somebody have any questions? Thoughts? So moving to new business, but it looks like we have none. Is that, I understand that, right? So if you don't always keep these on there, but if there's
Yep.
nothing, it's just.
Right, there's nothing this month. So yeah, nothing came in, right, Sabrina? Nothing came in.
Okay, so under the pending traffic safety requests, and then I guess one of my questions would be. If everything is on the list. Whether there's an update or not. How do you want me to kind of help manage the meeting? Do you want me just to kind of pass off this entire pending, then let you guys just kind of work through it?
Yeah, that'd be
So
great.
I don't want to just like have to, I can just go through each one, but I
Yeah,
can hand
well-
off the whole thing too, and you can just walk through it.
Yeah.
Unless we need to make a decision or
We
something.
will comment on each one of them. We'll give you the update or we'll tell you we don't have an update and then that way, if we give you an update, you may be like, okay, we can now vote on closing this case out. Or no, it needs to stay pending on the pending list.
Okay.
So yeah, Jason, I can kick those off and start marching through each one of them and tell you where we're at. Ready to go.
All right, well, 222-005, request to lower speed limit, add more lighting, sidewalks, bike lanes and crosswalks on Edie Road. I just got an email back from ODOT regarding the speed limit study. And that was combined actually with the L word section, so 006, they're combining those into a speed limit or a speed study. And as far as I know, those are likely to get approved here in the next 2 months to lower the speeds on both roads. I don't know exactly if Bob Galati had submitted for just a 5 mile per hour reduction or if both roads are going to 35 mile per hour. So I'm waiting to hear back. They're just about to review it and get it through the queue. Hoping that the speed limit signs will get swapped out before school ends, but it's looking like that might happen right after school gets out, but. That's good news. We'll want to keep this on here, the request to lower speed limit, because that's still a pending action. We add more lighting, sidewalks, bike lanes and crosswalks on Edie Road. We do have a TSP project and a CIP project that's already for the Edie Road improvements. So my suggestion is to track that, the remaining stuff, add more lights, sidewalks, bike lanes and crosswalks, and take that stuff and put it under the pending CIP projects, and I can give Jason or Sabrina a TSP number to track for that. If you guys want to. Nothing really the traffic safety committee can do until that project goes forward, and it's. I think the county estimated it like $12 million, so a little bit over the $100,000 budget that the traffic safety committee can do anything with. Similar response for the Elwart Road, the speed limit study is combined with ED, and I want to report back at the next meeting. Good news on that. And then install speed bumps on northbound and southbound Elwart Road. I recommend striking that from this because the county would likely never allow speed restrictions on that section of it, but we still have another TSP project to improve all the rest of Elbert Road all the way up to Edie. So my recommendation is to also take this road improvements on Elbert, and I'll give the TSP project number and the CIP project number and move that to pending city projects.
So can I,
Okay, clarify that.
Yeah, just-
Explain that
so
better.
if I can loop back to, so the first one, so the 22 case, the 005, so that's the one on Edie Road. What I'd like us to consider as a committee for you to do would be to, if there's pieces of this that Jason is stating are yes, moving forward and going to CIP, then for Sabrina, for notes, we want to make it clear for her to be able to say, yes, we as a committee are agreeing or disagreeing, it should go to CIP for the certain aspects of it, for the more lighting, more sidewalks, bike lanes, the crosswalks, if that's something that CIP would look at favorably potentially, right?
I think that's what these are getting at too, is really just to improve Edie and Elbert. That kind of the takeaway I got from it. We have those and two pretty huge projects. I can't tell you when they're gonna get done, but
So, I'm sorry, that was my question. When we said we're gonna move something into CIP, is there a time frame on any of that, or is it just?
these are high priority projects for our elected. So these are actually on the list. These aren't aspirational. These are actually approved projects that are concrete. I believe that Edie Road 1 is a top priority within 5 years. Elbert Road, that section is more of a county jurisdictional road, and it's more or less tied to the Sherwood West expansion. As far as I know, that Edie Road improvements are supposed to be done in our council by within the next 5 years, preferably even sooner.
Okay, so kind of the long end game is 5 years, but hopefully before then.
Yeah, I mean, some electeds may want 2 years. I don't know if we can get the monies to do that, but it's totally in response to the accident with the two kids that were. Had the accident. That's the section of road that we want to get improved. So those are in the plan. Those are top priorities. I can't say Elbert's 5 years, but Edie definitely is a 1 to 5 year. It's in the plan of.
And I don't know how CIP works, but is CIP dependent each year upon what the city budget is that year?
Mhm.
Okay, so it could change as we go along.
Yeah, and I can make a note to get us an update on a more concrete answer for Edie Road improvements, whether that is a funded five-year project or maybe we have design only funded, but as I noted, it's a priority in our 1 to 5 year CIP plan.
So Mike, that's a great question, and I think this is an important thing to remember is that that's anything that does get shifted to CIP. That in one moment, it could be at the top of the list and be number one for us or you guys as a committee, and the city, but as additional CIP project, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, that a new project could become more important and shift. So timeframes that are given are fluid, right? Just due to what the other new pieces that could be coming.
And we'll be clear in this section, see pending city projects. The best could be in the CIP plan with a TSP project number is the best scenario. A lot of these are going to be aspirational and I'm going to have to present them to the city council and bring them from aspirational onto the CIP plan. But these projects already exist and they've already created, they've already been approved by the city council, which is good.
Maybe for Sabrina for notes, it'd be helpful if you're able to tell her if it's an aspirational project for the city versus it's an actual CIP project. And then Sabrina, you could make that note to put it under that case that's being switched to CIP as if it's a CIP numbered project versus just aspirational project.
I'm still interested in the committee keeping priorities though. Even if there's in the CIP or aspirational, rank them all as their projects that you want done.
So these first two are numbered already, aspirational.
Yeah, we've gotten detailed cost estimates. So these two are further along than most of the other projects we've discussed. So these are solid.
So Jason, it's still tough.
It's really doesn't get through the same initial.
JJ, I don't. Jason, so before we move on to 006, the second case, can we just look at 005, the first one, which all the things in there, I think Jason is saying are all being CIP numbered. And if you guys would want to put a motion one way or another to take it off of our pending list and move it to CIP list, correct?
Yes, sort of. Make a motion to move an ED road improvements project to the CIP list, and Elwood Road improvements project to the list.
Well, I want to deal with Elwood after. It's a separate case and it's.
To our speed zone request, I was thinking we could combine into one item. Speed zone request for Elwood and ED because it is the same.
Okay.
Speed study?
You'll just have to outline that you had made mention that in 006. That you said that the aspect of. It's looked at speed bumps. That would be. That would be denied.
Yes.
That
That
would,
definitely.
that would be an unfounded piece. So I think it's important for you to. Look at the complaint, dissect each piece of it and make sure that you're. Either making recommendations up or down on each piece of it.
There's not much here. We'll have the CIP projects, but definitely I want to keep pending traffic safety requests to close out the speed study and what happened there. With the speed change. Study that ODOT's doing,
Okay,
so I wouldn't mind keeping just that on as one item over ED speeds.
is that part of the CP project or is that something that we would fix here?
It's just gonna, the county comes out, they put up the signs, ODOT approves it. Once they issue the order, then Washington County just goes out and swaps the signs out. So there's really not much here to discuss other than is it done or isn't it not, or is it not done? So.
So I guess my question is, if it's already on the CIP list. Do you need us to make a motion to request that it goes on the CIP list?
No,
You just need to,
just acknowledge it somehow to get it off here.
Sabrina needs to close the case, yes.
So just to clarify, are we closing this for the TSC and moving it onto a CIP list? Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Okay, we do need a motion for that then.
Do we need to close it now or are we waiting to close it until the speed limit is approved and we get in?
I think that's why it's been. If you close it, then the issue's closed and there's no resolution, I guess, on that one. That's supposed part of
I would like to follow up and report back. That's, ODOT approved it, the speed zone signs are getting changed in 30 days. I just don't have that report back from them. That's really the only aspect of these two that I want to share updates on.
It's probably pending, until that they would say that that's done, approved and changed, then we can just close it. Just trying to separate, it's not really like feasible with the specific numbers to separate the speed limit from the rest of it from the CIP project.
Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of history of us showing support for the CIP projects. But I mean, really, it's a procedural thing of where it's gonna go on the agenda.
Just leaving this part of it.
I guess the one thing to that though, Jason, is that per I think our bylaws, get my acronyms all mixed up. Traffic Safety Committee doesn't weigh in on the direction of the city's CIP projects. So if we're saying that the speed aspect of this is really at the Traffic Safety Committee level, then yes, leave it pending. But once that part corrects and gets rectified, anything additional that's been requested, that CIP and larger in scope would then shift off. Yes. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Motion, we would just make it close that number and that would be that.
So for right now, you're wanting it to remain pending until the speed sign stuff gets corrected.
Makes sense to me, yeah, especially since that's really one of the main concerns, for a lot of the citizens is the speed.
It allows us to talk about it in future meetings until it's all done.
Sounds good.
Did that sort of cover 006?
I think
Sort of be.
so 006 would be the same. It'll remain pending with the notation, Sabrina, that the speed bump part would be it's being recommended by recommendation of engineering.
Small sign.
The other place that we're tracking all this stuff is in the table. Or whatever we're calling that thing, the tracking sheet, and there's like good history of discussions and if decisions were made, that's all in there.
And that's what we're wanting to get for Sabrina, so that she gets that accurate for those, for that table.
So the more information we keep track of, even if it's past, helps me when it does come time for the CIP plan to advocate for the projects. It just kind of helps me a bit more versus, hey, it's just my idea, you know. I think there are times when I can come back and share maybe a sketch of, here's back to, you know, what we talked about on May or what, April here. April 27th, and I can present you an exhibit that I'm presenting in the CIP plans and get informed.
The CIP plan gets presented to city council.
Every year. We're gonna be actually having a work session for it next Tuesday, presenting the proposed next 1 and 5 year CIP plan.
You lucky guy.
But,
I have a question. Once the speed limit is changed, how the Washington County or Sherwood monitor that you know, it is being obeyed?
That'll be the police department, you know, no different than any
So
other.
you'll
We'll
make
run,
an extra presence there.
we'll run, yeah, there'll be obviously, whenever, well, you probably speak to this, but when they do a speed limit change on the road, there's
the orange flags and you're required
packet
to
that goes to that.
traffic control change signs have to be up for, I don't know what it is, 30 or some 60 days, you know, when it happens, and keep those up for a certain amount of time just to let everybody know in advance that the signs have changed. Yeah, it'll be the PD that gets to issue citations for those trains.
So you're dealing with first two, and just making sure you need us to, are we good?
Yep.
Okay, so 05 and 06, just stay where they're at.
Yep.
And kind of just lining out the rest of it.
Case dash 010.
Well, I talked to Jeff and Dan about this one, and I haven't had enough time to get into what Bob had been looking at, but I have this on my radar screen to investigate before I head off on vacation. And give you a report on, I don't have a location map or really know what this one's all about, but I'm all for tackling the no parking signs and quite different issues and not hunting those to CIP plans. So I will provide an update to you guys at the next meeting, and I'll give Captain Dan an update with him next week.
We'll get smooth on this, Jason, I know it. So the 2023 case 001, this is the case that is in regards to the Sherwood High School, the parking lot traffic on Haid and the issues that that produces. This case, when we last left it last month, I believe you had voted on it, that you believe that, yes, it was found in complaint. In regards to the issues on Haid for traffic at the end of the school day, and that the traffic issues on Elward at the start of the school day were being impacted by the parking lots set up at the high school. So I think the last motion, Jason, maybe you can tell me, but we left it with leaving it to the police department of the city to be able to connect with the school district to start working on trying to find a better plan. So police department, we did that. We've met with the school and started discussions with them in regards to the issues and all the data that we collected and what we're seeing. We delivered that information. We talked about the aspects of changing our ideas of potentially changing the drop-off locations for the high school as opposed to the front door, and trying to move traffic to the back. That was explained. We talked about the concepts of impact of people parking across the street sometimes and not in the parking lots because of traffic. And we also discussed the aspects of the city working towards signage along Haight in front of the school that would say no parking, stopping or standing. As well as signage that would be in the neighboring streets that would say no stopping, parking or standing in those locations. So that stuff's all been put to the school, to the principal and explained. Obviously, when that meeting occurred, you know, we're telling them that we're coming just from our perspective as a safety committee here, as well as the police department. We're seeing it from our one dimension. We don't know the struggles or the limitations of the school or school district in regards to making those adaptations. And so the completion of that meeting resulted in us letting them have some time to grind on it, to digest it, to digest the ideas that or the problems that we've stated truly exist. And some of the solutions that we put on the table and see if they have the ability to come up with different solutions as well. So they're grinding on that right now and digesting that a little bit, and they're just waiting to hear back from them. We did talk about timelines on that of trying to work to solution or solutions before the close of the school year, just so that we have staff, et cetera, to be able to work with that with the school district. And they seem understanding of that fact that makes sense for a timeline. So with that said, I see it as this item is still going to remain pending on your list unless you see differently. But it's still open and getting worked on. So I think hopefully in the next couple of months, have some more ideas as to what they're able to do. With that said, Jason can probably chime in from, this was a multifaceted, right? It was, what can the school district do to help solve the problem a bit? What can the police department do to help in regards to enforcement along those roadways, which we've been doing? We've even moved our little four-wheel side-by-side vehicle out there for our SRO to be able to get up and down the sidewalks and stuff quicker and be able to kind of start educating people to be moving at it. So, and then the third prong was engineering from the aspect of signage. So let Jason speak to that.
Yeah, I didn't meet with the school district or talking about changing any patterns, and what I looked into is what can we do now with the Haight Road didn't have any school zone signs on it. That was one of the concerns, and I reached out to the county, and it seems like that was kind of a, I don't want to say mistake, but they shouldn't have 25-mile-per-hour signs up. That should be school zone signs. And it sounds like I've convinced the county to swap the signs out. I've asked them if they can get it done by the end of the school year. They have a on-call contractor working on it. I can't promise that, but it's pretty slam dunk that those are going to get swapped out by the county. That's good news. I'm working with the county once those get swapped out to allow the city to go out and strap no parking or standing signs on the north side of the entire roadway and get those up before the end of the school year. Those are the two things that I think we can get some movement on and at least improve the situation out there. I don't think it's going to help the overall situation with nobody being able to turn around during pickup. There was also another item of the location of the speed zone flashing sign on Elwood. I don't know if anyone's noticed that's between the roundabout and the signal at Hayden. It's just odd that it's in between there and not north of the signal. County sent me back reasons why it was put where it was, and looking into that and seeing if we can get that relocated to the north side of the traffic signal at Hayden. Just kind of to square up the school speed zones and make it a little bit more, you know, what we're expecting when we see it out there. Other than that, those are the kind of three things that I'm trying to get done for the end of the school year. So,
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the no parking, which already exists, no stopping, standing signage was also, were we going to try to dovetail that over into the Orchard? Because there was the other complaint, as you remember, which was Orchard Hill Lane and Fisk, that over there, and people pulling up along the no parking side and to wait for kids to pick up across the street. So we'll be trying to see those things.
Yeah, I think would want the city manager to buy off on those ones since it's already existing neighborhood. I'm willing to take the lead and we can go throw the signs up on paid since there's no development on the other side. I'd like to say yes, but I know the city has been careful about how they've gone about that, but I think we should, you and I could broach the subject with the public works director. I'm all for changing no parking signs out, but I know that's a bit of a sensitive topic.
Just for clarification on those no standing signs on paid. Are those are gonna be on the school side of the road, on the south side?
Correct.
Okay, so I said north, sorry, whichever side these guys.
So,
That's what I was thinking. That's where they always park, right?
the school side of the road.
I tracked the police officer here. I traffic.
To that end also, just so you know, we've looked at that. You guys all know Chris Pierce. Chris Pierce is our traffic officer for Sherwood Police Department, and he's worked with our city attorney just to ensure that our municipal code and also that state ORS, correct, Chris? Will work for us in regards to being able to issue citations if we need. Obviously, that's not our first move. We want to educate and start to change the culture of what people are doing. But we understand there's a break point too when we have to go to an enforcement side, and Chris has done the legwork to research that out and find out that we're squared away and able to do that.
Just this curiosity thing with the discussions with the school district, do they have any comments on charging the kids for parking?
We talked about that aspect. There is a $20 parking pass fee that they have, and yeah, they did articulate that exists and that those funds are used to kind of help with traffic safety related things, i.e. speed bumps and things like that on the school property, et cetera, to try to enhance traffic safety actually on their property. So, and or other projects that they feel enhance the safety. When we started talking about trying to get, the people to do drop off at the two back parking lots and what that looks like and the projects that could have to entail in regards to different things to make it safe, arms and things like that would go down to prevent cross traffic from happening. So those funds are being used for that, and they do have means for being able to reduce those parking permit costs in certain circumstances.
I was just curious, because way back when the dinosaurs roamed and I went to high school, parking was just gonna be parking.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a common thing with all major city high schools now, or just something that Sherwood done.
I don't know.
I started in the '90s when I was at Tiger. I just parked.
Yeah.
That was, late '90s, Tiger High School, so just up the road. And I still don't think they charge there. Maybe Tualatin does, but I think Tiger Tualatin is pretty much the same school district, so.
It does help them now with having the kids have to sign kind of a contract as far as like the rules of parking. And as far as like their vehicles being searchable because they're on school grounds. And so they actually do kind of sign a contract in paying their parking fee that holds them accountable to having the car on campus, driving the vehicle, that their car is searchable, kind of all those things. So that part of it is kind of nice.
Yeah. Never heard that.
It's a good question, Mike, a good comment to put on the table. I can say that in that discussion with the school, they have made proactive, good decisions in the past year to change the parking, for example, in the front parking lot. So they talked to me about the aspect that when the school opened, not so long ago, that very front large parking lot was open to really anyone to be able to kind of go into there and try to park in that front parking lot. It wasn't assigned. Currently, hopefully I'm getting this right. That's for the seniors. Right. And so that made a large improvement for traffic actually. Due to the fact that originally they had all students wanting to go into that front lot to try to get a spot that was closer to the front door, which was then causing an excessive amount of cars, trolling through all that front lot, which was then causing backups all the way on Hayden and Elward. So they noticed that when they made it just for the seniors, then everyone else knew to start pushing to the back, which was our ultimate goal, right? Push people to the back and this will all improve. So that improvement that they did make an improvement to the traffic on Elward. We're just trying to get it to that next level. So.
Did the school mention anything about the pedestrian bridge project that they're maybe waiting for that to be completed before they?
No correlation discussion between the bridge and the parking issues.
Still approved, right?
The timeline for that project, we're gonna go out for bid for the Ped Bridge August of this year, and it should take about 14 months to complete the project, so.
There's obviously discussions in our meeting about that bridge, but nothing that relates to our complaint here.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I'm just curious, how many kids do drive, park at the high school versus, take the bus?
Remember this one, Chris?
I mean, is there any incentive for the kids? Maybe there should be to take the bus.
Yeah, there's no data that the school resource officer who helped me was able to find to tell how many students actually utilize the buses. Because a lot of kids will ride as other students or kids will hop in with another parent's car. So there are, an assigned number of student parking spaces. So you can at least subtract that number from the amount of kids that may ride the bus, but then we also have a lot of kids that just walk. So we really have no solid idea or data on how many kids actually use the bus.
So the problem is kids being dropped off. Drop off.
The pickup and drop off has been the leading cause for the backup on Cade Road. Especially after school, when people would park along Cade to wait for the kids to get out of school and then walk out to their parents or their rides in the car. So that's where the ride and wait is, right there on Cade Road.
In a way, it's actually worse in the afternoon because you have the combination of the kids who are driving, leaving, plus the kids who are being picked up, leaving. Everybody's clustering at the same time. In the morning, you have that cluster, but it filters out because the kids park and stay versus the rest of them that try to leave after that. So the leaving is much easier in the
They kind of
afternoon.
stagger their arrivals, in the morning. They don't all come at the same time, but they all leave at the same time for the most part,
It's actually impressive to me how many kids at Sherwood drive. Like there are a lot of kids that drive, mine drives, and there's all of his friends have a license to drive and they're sophomores. So the juniors and seniors, it's pretty much a lot of them now. Yeah, I would have to say better than 50% of the kids have licenses and drive. It's like a big thing right now for teenagers.
And they can't pick anybody up too because of the rules when they first start driving, right? You can't.
The sophomores can't, but once you get past that 6-month mark of having your license, then you're able to.
Yeah, only 7 minutes.
Right.
So it was presented to the school, the couple ideas that Chris and other Sherwood officers in conjunction with our SRO came up with for trying to get the traffic into a better situation there. So they understand the hopes and desires of opening up the access to the school via Kruger Road. They understand the concepts of just having the drop off at the back or combinations of those things. So, but with those, they were articulated that they have true problems as well that they have to deal with in regards to staffing that, to have someone out there to be able to manage the safety of the buses getting out of there without running into the cars that are coming in now by approved or these other ways. So while sometimes it seems, like I said at the start, very obvious to us what the solution is, they have a whole set of different umbrellas that they're dealing with. That they're like, yeah, that's not as easy as it looks to fix. So I'm giving some time to grind on this a bit and see what they can come up with.
Excuse me, is there a date when they might get back to us?
No, I left it open-ended, but the principal and I understand that, we want to try to come up with some solutions pre-school getting out mid-June, right? So yeah, left it with that. So I'll hear back from them, I would assume, before we get together again for our next meeting, and we may not be crossing the finish line yet, but it'll be a work in progress.
Thank you. Yeah, was that our pending?
Last one.
So we can, I'm putting in a service request for the Public Works Department for Pine Street here, to install the 2 missing speed limit signs on Pine Street between Division and Sunset. That will take care of that. We hope to have those installed by the next traffic safety committee meeting by our Public Works Department, so that can go a bit quicker. Also to move the stop bar at Division and Pine Street on the back entrance to Snyder Park up closer, just so you can see the car a bit better. Other than that, I think the remaining items, if the PD wants to get a speed trailer out there to look at the speed, we can do that. But once these 2 things, the speed limit signs are up and the bar has been moved, I feel that this item has been addressed as much as we can do. And we mentioned wanting pedestrian count for Division in Pine Street. And I can just keep that on my radar screen and ask you guys if you want to do that at the next meeting. I don't know if it's a high priority spot for pedestrian count, so I just had a note to mention that again. Citizen comment was, can we get pedestrian counts at Division and Pine Street?
So on that point then, Jason, do you want that to be something that you and the committee want from us as a city or not?
I can't remember if we talked about that. Does anyone remember?
I think Jason said it was a city.
It was a citizen comment.
Typed in.
Oh, during the meeting.
Yeah, during the meeting, and I wouldn't mind at the next quarter. Do we know where we want traffic counts? Because I'm one of these items in the next wave, and when I am getting traffic counts for a study, and I was curious if we could get some clarity on the locations. I know we had mentioned Crooked River and Middle Old Highway 99W, wanting traffic counts there. And I don't know if you guys can make a motion even here, which locations you wanted to. Again, I can include that with my order through the quality counts company to add those locations in, or we can do it separately. I know the one location I have concrete that we had mentioned, and Jason had mentioned this, was the Crooked River place in the old Highway 99W right by Middleton Elementary.
And I think the other 2 were kind of similarly down, but by Middleton, so the Timbrel, right, isn't that on Sunset as well? And then Woodhaven that came up to us most recently also.
Yeah, and we're taking care of the ones on, I'll talk to that on the pending city projects list, but city doing a crosswalk study at Woodhaven and Sunset, and we're gonna include Sunset and Timbrel as well. And then what I'll do is I'll order traffic counts at Timbrel and Middleton Road, and then traffic counts at the Crooked River and Old Highway 99W. That
Can I inject for just 1 second?
Yes.
To help Sabrina for notes, it gets tough when we're on an agenda item and then we shift down to other ones for her. If we could stick to 003 and decide on that, and then we can move to discussing other points that'd be real helpful for her.
and I would recommend no pedestrian counts at Pine and Division for 003. Just
I didn't recall one related to that area.
It was a citizen comment. He asked.
Citizen.
Yeah, during-
Okay, because I was like, I don't think we discussed that. Okay,
It's last meeting.
got it, yeah.
Yeah, and I would recommend not. It doesn't get, I don't think it's a high enough use, and I can follow up with Larry Sherwood myself to like why we aren't gonna do that.
So I'm wrong, but I feel like this one also doesn't need a motion, but we already kind of resolved this one, and then the only reason it's pending is because we're waiting for the sign set, so. So I don't know,
Similar to the speed limit study.
I don't know that it needs any action from us, unless I'm remembering wrong. Yeah, the spreadsheet doesn't specifically say what we motioned. So I can't remember.
Loaded question, you know, they're loaded up with four things in each one, so.
I think when Sabrina and I talked about this case, that was actually a bit of a confusion point for us after the fact was where did this case sit on motion? I think, correct, Serena?
Do you want to clarify things?
It'd be great, and I'll re-talk the points that we talked last time on this one. From the police perspective, so from this, our analysis, Chris's analysis on this and others were that, and this is where we had a citizen who provided us with great video footage of the intersection and location. So of this one, multi-pronged, it was that the speeds were too high along Pine, correct? The other prong to this was that they were running the stop signs on Pine at Division. And the third prong is the need for signage. Additional signage in regards to speed. Police department's perspective on this one, just review from last time was that we're not seeing an excessive speed issue on that street outside of the norms we would see on any streets throughout the city. We do acknowledge, so that part, we would deem that part unfounded. The aspect of the stop sign violations that exist there, we do see that to be excessive. More than what we would consider acceptable. No, running a stop sign is acceptable, but outside the parameters of what would be typical, is what I'm trying to say. So it is excessive there. And so for that piece, the police department was saying that we would tackle that in regards to dealing with that. And then the signage piece was yours, which I think you're saying it was founded.
Yeah, we're missing, and then on top of the four-way stop issues, the engineering department's gonna move that stop bar up on
Moving of the bar.
Division Street approach, so vehicles can be seen and more visible from Pine Street, because I personally have almost had head-ins with people taking less and not seeing people moving. So we're gonna do our part to try to improve the stop configuration, but there's not, I don't know if we can resolve all the issues with the uphill. A lot of people aren't wanting to stop all the way on the uphill portion because it's harder to take off for some reason. I go into work Pine Street heading towards City Hall. And I have times where cars are coming and I can't tell if they're gonna turn in front of me, and I go. And it's a tapping 3 times where I almost run right into somebody, so it is a bit of a tricky intersection.
So the meeting minutes said that we approved the motion to recommend that city staff add speed limit signs at this location, provide extra police enforcement, and to get pedestrian counts.
Oh, we did do the pedestrian counts. Okay. We'll do it.
Good.
Want to get pedestrian counts?
I mean, we can make another motion, modify that, but we did already make a motion and approved it.
Let's do it. That's your motion.
I mean, I'm okay with making another motion to pull the counts out of that previous one that we did, if it sounds like it's not a recommended thing. Save the city the funds.
I would move that we take the counts out of them. The thought of the place is that they're not really required, that your studies have shown that you got the data you need.
Okay, just to clarify, you want me to remove that from the minutes then?
No.
Or
Modify the recommendations.
modify the recommendation?
Not
Okay.
this. For pedestrian count.
I would second my motion, if that was your motion.
That was my motion.
I would second that.
Poorly stated, but that was it.
So we need a motion to remove the pedestrian counts from 2023-003
From the recommendation.
from the previous recommendation that we moved and accepted last meeting.
Got a good summary of your recommendation, Mike.
That was great.
So you need a seconding of the seconding.
I'm just gonna start signing. Handle it from here on.
Okay, any questions, comments? Anything before we move on? Okay, I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay. All right, cool. Got some traffic counts off your list.
And Jason, I'm gonna just call you chair from now on. So
That's fine.
chair. We'll leave this one then on there pending just due to the fact that we haven't, the engineering is still working on getting the signage up.
Yeah.
And then,
We will have a contract signed with Kittleton and Associates for our crosswalk settings, and I can give you a report in the next meeting that you're the two locations in addition to our two locations. I think it's warranted too, those other locations are pretty high use pedestrian zones.
So which ones are they in the study? Just
The Crooked River and then Timberville and Middleton, and then the city is gonna do the Sunset at Timberville and Sunset at Woodhaven.
on to pending city projects now?
All right, 2022-009, we were started talking about that a bit, but we had a complaint, someone, or I think there was an accident there on a Sunday recently. I think somebody, I don't know if you guys,
I believe there was.
yeah. In response to that, and I put together a scope of work and got a response from Kittleson, put together the whole contract, and we're gonna be circulating that for signatures, and that was budgeted with Bob and Julia for it's called a Sunset Boulevard like pedestrian study. I think you guys had mentioned that. So we're gonna use that project to go ahead and complete that. Should have the contract signed here within a week and hopefully report back with the findings, you know, in the next couple months, the study will be done. And that will be looking at the safety, traffic counts, vehicle movement, AD ramps, and then making recommendations for improvements at the Woodhaven and Sunset intersection as one project that I think will get done with the pedestrian bridge. And then there'll be another project at Sunset and Timberville, which will likely be a push button crosswalk improvement there. And I'm also going to see if we can study the entrance to the YMCA. I know that will become an issue with folks crossing there as well. And if they make a recommendation for crosswalk improvements there, that would be more of a city project that we do. So it's might morph out into 3 different little CIP projects, but that's good news. I know that we've been wanting to get the Woodhaven Sunset and Timberville studies for a long time. So I was not happy to hear about the accident, but that was the catalyst to get this contract signed. So that's good news.
Chair and committee, as we go through CIP, this section of our agenda here, the pending city projects. Obviously, this isn't the section that you're voting on, et cetera. But I do think that there's value in if you see the order that we put here, this is our first kick at the cat of this type of agenda. We put it in this order of like number 1 on that being our highest CIP project interest for that is here. If you think that something should be higher or this orders need to be changed as Jason gets done with these, just let us know and Sabrina can change the order. And each month or periodically, we can look at them and tweak that order just so that the city kind of sees your view from your lens, what you think's the most important.
In the city, I'll add that the city updates the CIP plan, or we're wanting to about twice a year. So right around now, budget time, and then right before December hits, and I'll kind of give you guys a heads up of, hey, let's everybody go through and rank the projects, and I'll take that to the kind of CIP coordination meetings. And so twice a year is really when we need to really get in there and rank it, and then provide me the list of rankings, and that'll help me advocate and get these projects done. All right, we're ready to go on to the Walmart entrance. I presented a exhibit with some tubular markers and converting it to write in, write out. I don't have an update on whether we're able to get that integrated into the county's project. They're gonna be paving up kind of the Red Robin entrance, so. We'll keep this on here and I'll hopefully report back good news within the next 3 months that the county is gonna absorb this into their project. Option 2 is it's gonna be captured with the city's repaving of that road. I don't know what the pavement index is on that, but it's probably got a good 3 or 4 years, 5 years left in it. For the cities out there repaving, so no concrete updates on this project, but and over time, I mean, if we have no update on these, could I let you know beforehand and then we can bring them out or something like that?
Just make a note. Just kidding.
2023-002. This is being recorded in our ADA transition plan that the city's wrapping up, so it'll be listed in there. That will go, that's an inventory of all the ADA ramp deficiencies in the city, and it comes up with a plan to repair all of those. So it's gonna be in that plan, and then as of now, it's an aspirational CIP project. To move the ramp back over to I think it's the west side, further away from the curve, back to kind of where it was, and improve those ramps and put a ramp on the opposite side. And add crosswalk enhancements and signage there. I don't know if that's gonna become a CIP project, because there are other locations in town that I think rank higher.
Just to clarify on this, the last time we dealt with this, police department's assessment was no additional signage was needed, so.
Fine the way it is now, and it just needs to be upgraded for ADA ramps. And if we do upgrade the ADA ramps, I'm recommending the crosswalk be moved to the opposite side, further away, to provide, 50, 60 more feet of sight distance. And then at that time, not really my call if they want to put the extra signs up. And, the crosswalk ahead signs that you see pointing down, those are more, there's no warrants for those typically. That's the city's call. You guys would probably weigh in on that, so. This one is it's gonna sit here on the ADA transition plan until something gets done.
When it says flashing lights, they assume that means the rapid flash beacons.
And I personally would not recommend putting in flashing lights there just because of it's a local street. And questionable whether we want to put the, yellow signs with the down arrow to show that there's a crosswalk there, but there is that curve, so we'll at least look at that again. As far as the ramps do need to be upgraded to ADA, I think Jason and I talked about that, so we don't want to lose sight of the ADA complaint here. So the city does have an ADA transition plan that we're working on, and we'll move those over to that section. And you guys aren't the ADA review committee, keep it simple. And then 2021-005, request for stop signs, speed bumps, and or crosswalk. We just talked about that. We're gonna get counts for this, and then likely put a enhancement project for a crosswalk there to bring the signage into compliance with the MUTCD, and then pose the question of whether we want to put push button flashing beacons on it, because there is a bit of a vertical curve issue on Old Highway 99W. If you've driven on it, you kind of lose sight of that intersection, so it'd be warranted there. So we'll get the pedestrian counts and traffic counts there, and then give you an update. Hopefully the next meeting, I don't know, when quality counts will be out there.
This has been on the books for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it seemed, I don't know, being a simplistic guy, something speed bumps, relatively easy fix.
Yeah, these are a little bit, push button flashing beacons on, or they get up to around $100,000 projects. But I live near this area, so Timbrel and Middleton Road are high priorities for me, watching kids there, and so this location, and I want you guys to start seeing stuff get done,
And I think even since this original complaint came in, when this first started, really, you were on it maybe at that point. Even the crosswalk signs that come out from the road appeared at multiple, by all the schools. So at least that, there has been some improvement since even this first came on the list, which is nice to see.
Yeah, and I would like to bring I'd like to bring it into compliance with the METCD manual, which is a little bit more. It's a little different, and I don't know if those ramps meet ADA compliance either, so. We'll see what the study shows. We may end up having to redo the ramps there, and that curve there may prompt us to put in push button flashing beacons, or at least get it in as an aspirational CIP project, but I've crossed there and it's off hour, and it's kind of sketchy with people driving past. So it's on my mind, so.
Just in terms of rank ordering them, my thought would be to flip flop the last two, 2023 002 being.
That last,
Yeah, that last, and then 005, what that is, number 3. I'm fine with the first two, although just, I hate everything about Walmart.
And I don't believe we could take these once they're just, this is a CIP project aspirational or CIP project number XXX off the TSP and just move them to the list that we don't need to touch every meeting, because I don't need to tell you guys that we're not,
Yeah, I
no movement on.
have thoughts, but I was gonna wait till after the meeting to talk.
Anyways. I just don't want to keep going through the list going, it's still on the list and we haven't done anything with it, but.
I get uncomfortable participating in rating CIP projects priority list when one of them is an ADA issue. I don't want to get involved in putting an ADA issue below a non-ADA issue, and I'd rather let these guys do that. That's my personal opinion. I mean, I think I have my own opinions on the priority of those projects within the city's budget, especially when a specific person complains about an accessibility issue. So I personally am a little uncomfortable even with where it's at, but I'd rather just not say that we're ranking them in order.
we can totally do that. If that's the rule of that you guys want.
Yeah, you guys can, I like the idea of being able to weigh in on that, like to help you prioritize
Yeah,
your
that's what
projects,
I'm
but
thinking
maybe
about
not in
The
the.
list that isn't really, once these are. I'm telling you that they're aspirational for an actual project, I think they should be in a list that. You can either weigh in on or just.
And
Let
we
it
can
go. or
come up
go.
with ideas of how to do it where it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Maybe like your CIP, usually it's like this is a 1 to 5 year project, this is a 5 to 10 year project, or
And that.
high
main
priority, this priority, low priority,
Yeah.
or something like that. So it's not quite so much 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And we can pull it off the agenda and have it as a separate sheet that it's just something you can see, and see, oh, still there. But we want to make sure that we're transparent in regards to things that started here. And it got pushed out of here, that you at least kind of know that we didn't forget about it.
Yeah, no,
Much appreciated.
I appreciate that, yeah.
Yeah, likewise, a lot of these are just, this is my list that I keep in my back pocket, and I'm just going to city council going, hey, what do you think about doing the ramps and crosswalks there? And it's unheard versus here it is in our list.
Is that the will of the group?
That works perfectly for me. I just haven't quite, I'm still confused regarding the aspirational versus number.
I would describe aspirational as just the city engineer's idea to fix the problem, and it hasn't been.
Is the list that we see here, are these aspirational? Are they?
We'll clarify that in the list that we have next time and maybe work with Jason and circulate the list, but it will clearly say whether it's a TSP project number 1, 2, 3, 4 with an ID, or it will just say aspirational, which we can consider city engineers concept.
That's perfect.
And I typically put together a conceptual plan with, showing the ramps and break down a price for it, and then I'll pitch that as a, $30,000 project or something like that. And sometimes they get picked up and sometimes they're just. So that's why I really appreciate the committee here. Helping get things done, so. Versus Bob's idea or Jason's idea.
Well, I appreciate you putting effort into it and moving
I can't
forward.
promise anything, but I'll do my best to get a lot of these done. and see some action versus, I mean, the committee's been, what, 3 years we've had the committee, and I'd like to start seeing more things that get done. Thankfully, I feel it's like one of my goals to not just promising committee.
Okay, so, I think that concludes, the pending city project section. Does anybody else have any questions, comments on those? You guys have anything else on any of those?
Sure, you, next meeting, I can share the CIP plan map, if you guys want to see that, and I know Lisa had asked what paving projects are gonna be next year, and I can, you know, maybe take some time to go over that quickly and show you where our projects are.
All right, we'll move on to, committee comments. Does anybody have any non-agenda things they want to say? I got one. There's a community enhancement program grant that the city makes applications from. And I, if anybody knows, if any of you guys know more about this from the city than I do, feel free to chime in, but what the little I've learned recently, well, the first thing to note is it's too late for applications this year. The deadline was at the end of, that was like last week or something like that. But it sounds like it happens every year. And it's there's some fee on our trash bill that goes to Metro maybe, and then it kicks it back out to the cities, and then they can give the money out, and it's this community enhancement program, and it's like the types of projects that are eligible that are of interest to us anyways, would be like a public safety type enhancement. It sounds like from my reading of it, like a capital improvement, probably a lower dollar capital improvement project type thing. Or, you know, one of these projects that we have could potentially be eligible. And the people who can apply are nonprofits, or the citizen committee was one of the groups that can apply. So I think that we are part of that. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, I think that we could apply for grant funding for something. And I think that we could maybe like get on it for next year. And it was just an idea I had. I don't know, we're always struggling to find funds, and I don't know how popular that grant program is. I can probably try and reach out to whoever. Just get more information.
Trying to think who our program manager is on that. I know it goes through the city manager, but I can work with you on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
it seems like it might be a good opportunity for us to get something done. With a little bit more. Like everything we do is recommendations, but if we put in a grant application and it gets approved, then. I feel like it's a little bit more. Of a sure thing that's gonna get done. I don't know, this is an idea.
That begs the question of the $100,000 that, you know, is within.
Yeah, I got that's actually been on a note that you look into, and I think you guys deserve to at least get a kind of a ledger of what the 100,000 was spent on, and that's what I'm trying to get from the public works director and finance director is. Where was last year's 100,000 spent, and where is this year's 100,000 being used on? What's the balance? So you guys can at least make some last minute decisions since we're running out of time on the fiscal year, but we can easily come up with a project that use the rest of those funds, I'm sure. But yeah, that's something I'm wanting to report back to you the next meeting, and hoping it's just a printout from the finance department that you can just look through it.
So the deadline for this current cycle was April 18th, so basically we have a year until the next app, assuming it's the same next year. To get it, but depending on, like, I was thinking maybe it could be something that over the next few meetings, we could. brainstorm ideas of how, like a type of project that we might be able to do. And then some of them, depending on what they are, might need some like prep work ahead of the application to get various approvals or support from somebody or something like that. But I don't know, when we only meet once a month, there's just not a lot of, like, a year will go quick in terms of trying to put something like that together. I thought it might be something, so I don't know, maybe I can figure out a way to get information out to the group so you guys can think about it. And maybe over the next 2 or 3 meetings, we can brainstorm ideas. And if it's something that we think we'd want to participate in, we could make a plan.
So is this a first come basis to get this grant, or is it on merit? or-
It's a competitive thing, so you have to put in an application, and I don't know who reviews them and makes decisions, but. And I don't know how popular they are. Sometimes these like little known grants don't get very many applications either, so. I don't know.
I think our city council reviews the applications.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think, yeah, they look those over and award them. And
Did you say how large the grants are?
I thought I saw that at one point, but I was having a hard time finding the dollar amount.
I remember it not being it's not like 50 grand or anything like that, but it's more like $5,000 or around that range. And you might want to search through Metro too and see what they've been able to do with other agencies
Okay.
to provide you more of a broad spectrum of what we can do.
Okay. All right, that was my only comment. There's nothing, anything else? Okay, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
For sure.